Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with folded pork cutlet. That's right, they say you should never judge a book by its cover. Well, the same thing goes for pork cutlets. Since while this appears to be a plain old piece of breaded fried pork, thanks to the very simple technique I'm about to show you, inside you're going to find multiple layers of juicy, flavorful meat. And what I really loved about this recipe, besides the amazing taste and texture, was as soon as I had finished it, I was already brainstorming like a dozen new versions, which is always a great sign. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by prepping our pork for pounding. And what I have here is one fully trimmed pork tenderloin. And by fully trimmed, we mean any of that silvery skin or other connective tissue has been cut off. And these things are going to weigh about a pound each, which means we're going to get 2 perfect portions per piece. And the first thing we'll need to do is split this right in half lengthwise. And we really do want to get this as even as possible, so take your time and enjoy the slice. And that's it. Once our tenderloin's been successfully divided in half, what we'll do is take that and pound it very thin between 2 pieces of plastic. And I'm not sure it really matters, but I do like to start with the cut side up. And then using a meat pounder or some other heavy, flat object, we will thoughtfully pound this out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And as usual, anytime we're pounding meat, we want to start off slow. And then once that meat does start to flatten out in a nice uniform way, we can be a little more aggressive. And as we get closer to our desired thickness, we are sort of pounding and pressing from the center out. And we will keep doing that until, like I said, we get something that's about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then what we're going to do after the flattening, but before the folding, is of course the flavoring, which I'm going to start by seasoning this with some kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and cayenne that I mixed up beforehand to save time. And then once that's been applied, I'm going to go ahead and spread over some Dijon mustard. But not very much, just a very, very thin layer. Okay, I think one of the secrets to this technique is to show a little bit of restraint when it comes to the amounts of the fillings. So as you can see, I'm doing a very light application. And the same thing's going to go for our next ingredient, as I grate on a modest amount of Monterey Jack cheese, which I went with because I wanted something fairly mild and creamy, but a nice white cheddar would also work beautifully here, as would something a little more intense like Gruyere. And again, I'm showing great restraint here. Okay, I don't want a bunch of melting cheese flowing out when I cut this. So basically, we're using the cheese here almost like a seasoning. That's right, we're seasoning with cheese, or as we call it in the business, cheesening. And by doing a very light grating like this, we're going to add some flavor and moisture without the cheese overwhelming the whole thing. But anyway, once our pork's been seasoned, we can go ahead and finish up with a little bit of freshly chopped herb. In my case, some Italian parsley. Or in your case, anything you want. I mean, you are, after all, the Nancy Drew of your folded pork katsu. And there's no mystery as to what other herbs would work here. All right, things like rosemary or sage would work nicely. But anyway, regardless of what we use, once that's set, we'll go ahead and fold this up, starting with whatever is the pointiest end. And we will fold that in about 1/3 of the way, at which point we'll stop and fold the sides in a little bit. All right, to sort of square this off, but also to help keep all our fillings inside. And then once that's been accomplished, we can give this another fold. And if everything goes according to plan, we should have just enough meat to fold over the top to complete this nice little neat package of meat. But as you know, we always want our seam at the bottom. So let's go ahead and flip this over so that is in fact the case. And then just to make sure we don't have any air pockets, we'll grab our meat pounder again and give this a few taps here and there to sort of flatten it out. And that's it. Once our pork's been flattened, flavored, and folded, it is now ready to bread. But not before we season the outside with our salt, pepper, and cayenne mixture. And then once that's been done, we can go ahead and coat this in flour. And by the way, some people will just season the flour and not season the meat directly, but I don't like that method. Okay, I don't trust seasoned flour. I never have and I never will. So I think it is much better to apply that directly to the meat and then dust with flour. But anyway, once our meat's floured, we'll go ahead and transfer that into some beaten egg. And we'll toss that around until completely coated. At which point we'll finish this up by coating it in breadcrumbs. And for this video I used plain regular crumbs, but I did want to mention I used panko in an earlier version, and I think we like that one better. And if you do want something closer to a katsu, which is what this is based on, panko is probably the way to go, as that one did come out a little bit crispier. But having said that, both were magnificent. But anyway, I went ahead and did that to both my cutlets. And then once breaded, you can immediately fry these. But as with all breaded things, I think it does work better if you let them sit a little while. Okay, either uncovered out at room temp for about 10 or 15 minutes, Or you can cover those and pop them in the fridge until you're ready to fry. But anyway, that's going to be up to you and your time management skills. And whether you wait or do these immediately, we're going to finish these up by pan frying in some olive oil, or the oil of your choice over medium heat, for approximately 4 to 5 minutes per side or until cooked through. And we do want to be careful our oil does not get too hot. All right, so I said medium, but if you have to eventually back that down a little, go ahead. All right, what we want to avoid is our breadcrumbs getting too dark before the inside gets cooked. So something to keep an eye on. And when pan frying something like this, they say you should only turn it once. But you know what? They say a lot of things. And I decided I wanted this side to get a little more browning. So I did turn mine back over. And I'm happy to report nothing bad happened. But anyway, like I said, we'll cook that for about 4 or 5 minutes per side until cooked through. And in the blog post, I'm going to give you some tips on how to tell. Personally, I just went with the poke test. And that's it. Once I determined mine was pan fried to perfection, I went ahead and placed that next to a frisee and radish prop salad, along with a parsley and cayenne, half a lemon. And yes, this would be amazing with all kinds of sauces. But since the inside is so flavorful and juicy and kind of made its own sauce, I really do like the simple approach with just the fresh lemon. But anyway, let me go ahead and cut in so I can show you what's going on. And what's going on is this. Instead of one solid piece of pork, we've achieved multiple layers of juicy, flavorful meat. And above and beyond the obvious advantage of being able to flavor our meat from the inside out, we've also, I think, produced a much more interesting texture. All right, there's just something about the combination between that crispy crust and then those thin layers of meat inside that just takes the pan-fried pork cutlet experience up to a whole other level. And by the way, as you're watching this, if you're not already daydreaming about all the different versions you would do using different ingredients, well then I've not yet successfully trained you. But don't worry, we'll get there. Anyway, the point is, using this technique, there are so many different directions you could go flavor-wise that it almost boggles the mind. But anyway, that's it. What I'm calling folded pork cutlet. There are so many incredible and interesting ways to eat pork. And this, my friends, is definitely one of them. Which is why I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.